Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Friday again. What's going on already? Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, Q Macro. Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome, moin moin to Helmut in Hanover. Peter, good morning. Johan, good morning. I'm just looking over here. Again, at my thing here. I suppose I don't know whether you can see, but I've got here, shall I show you like, what the setup is here? I might sort of adjust that thing because I don't actually type on that. What I've got is, there's my keyboard, there's the Stream Deck. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, Samuele. And also just there is my Chromebook, my Pixelbook, which I use. I've got the studio on that one, and this is why I use that sort of script and everything to attach to the live stream so I can send things. So what I'll do actually is I'll just flip this because it's actually a, what's it called? You can convert it into a tablet, but I can have it on like, what do they call it? Like a tent mode. So that's a bit better. So I can see it a little bit easier there. There we go. That's cool. So good morning. Yes, good morning, everybody. I hope you're okay. I've got my coffee here in my OAuth at 8 AM Hands on SAP Dev coffee mug. I've got a Stroop waffle. If anybody knows how to more accurately pronounce that, a Stroop waffle, Johan, you were exactly right, biscuits. I thought I'd go for this one rather than the usual shortbread. I've got a few shortbread left. I need to sit on the coffee a bit more, on the warm coffee, which I've just brewed. So there we go. James Hale in the house. Good morning, James. I'll just wave to James literally through that window there all the way into the centre of Manchester, I guess. Good morning, James. So yeah, we're in another episode of the getting the most out of the SAP TechEd Developer Keynote repository. Because you can convert it. It's called a convertible. That's good. That's good. A hatchback, yes, a hatchback. Also, in the UK at least, the cars with a long boot, we call those estates, but also a posh name for that is shooting brake. Don't know why I've said that, but anyway. Was that a chocolate-coated coffee? A chocolate-coated coffee? No, this is again, I think this is the one you had, Andrew. This is the Miriam Perez Natural that I picked up from my local roasters yesterday again. Fantastic. Hey, Sebastiano. Good morning to you and welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, let me move straight on to the main scene because there's one thing I want to share with you. Well, actually two things I want to share with you before we get going. But just to let you know, this is all about sort of the next step in our embrace and exploration together of the Developer Keynote repository that we used, where we put all our stuff, all our code and our configuration from the Developer Keynote at SAP TechEd in December. Phil, you're wearing your OAuth at 8 AM shirt. Awesome. Awesome. I should have worn mine. I've got the door open, which is quite cool. So I've got my usual sort of SAP garb on, which is very nice, very nice. So there we go. So I've got my coffee. I've got my Stroop waffle, which is ejecting crumbs everywhere. I don't know why. Oh, thanks, James. Thanks, James. Yeah. So we have a survey. We have a Developer Insights Survey 2021 edition. So Riley has shared this blog post with a link to the survey. What I'll do, in fact, is I'll share that URL. So please, if you haven't done already, you're not wearing your OAuth at 8 AM shirt because it's 7 PM there, Andrew. Nicely done, nicely done. So there's the blog post from Riley with the link to the developer survey. I think the previous developer surveys have taken, 15, 20 minutes to fill in. This only takes, well, it took me less than 10 minutes to fill in. Because I fill in as well, of course. So please go there. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Patrick, and welcome. Thanks for joining. Yeah, please go to the survey and fill it in so we can, figure out what's going on. So that's that. And the other exciting, very exciting, I was genuinely excited to see and I missed it, so I apologise to Helmut, in advance, but I missed it. I'm busy doing other things. And number 1 in the pull requests. So on our repo, and I'm saying our because it's ours, it's our community repo. I've got a pull request from the wonderful Mr. Helmut Tammen in Hanover, who is here on the stream. So thank you, Helmut. So Helmut, and if anybody else wants to contribute, make things better, add stuff, absolutely welcome. This is all about sharing and learning together. So Helmut, just actually have a look at the pull request. There's the pull request. Let me share that as well. Helmut pointed out very correctly that the version of YQ, the latest version of YQ, version 4 and beyond, the whole interface, as it were, has changed the whole command structure. So instead of the YQR for read, it's YQE for evaluate. So Helmut, I thank you very much for this. I thought, well, rather than, just deal with it, I thought I'd sort of spin it out and show people how they can contribute, like Helmut's a great example. But also, I've mentioned that in the App Studio setup script, which is here, I've actually deliberately, I know that this, Helmut, you're not using the App Studio as your development environment, but if we do change the command, which was, where was it? In the message bus service setup, where is that? Let's have a look. Let's open up this other window here. In the message bus service setup, okay, we're using this YQ read and convert to JSON, all the stuff from standard input all the way down to end of parameters, which is that. Basically, I'm using YQ to convert this YAML, which is a lot easier and more beautiful to type and maintain, into JSON, right? So if we change the YQR to YQE, I guess all I'm saying in this comment here is we should really also change this line in App Studio Setup so that we install a version 4 version. So have a think. But thank you so much, Helmut. You get a prize, a no prize for being the first external contributor. May there be many more. So there we go. You will send out a memo, Phil, next time so we can all be OAuth at 8 AM shirt buddies. I think that's a good idea. We'll ping Alex Ellis as well to wear his. Yes, exactly. That's the alignment with the JQ syntax, I think, as well. Yes, exactly that. Maybe that's the reason for the change. Okay, so that was that. What's on my finger? Another crumb. So let's get going. So close that, and close that. So now in my Brave browser, because I've got different identities and everything, different identities. I don't know that. What are we going to do this Friday? Well, if we jump down to the quick start guide, you can see that we have this sort of step-by-step thing, and I've added links to these little television links, video links, link to all the different places in our previous episodes of this. There's a bit of what's going on in the previous episodes of this particular mini-series in Hands on SAP Dev, so you can jump straight to there and say, oh yeah, this is what did we do. Okay, so, and that's also, can you see, I don't know whether you can see in the bottom left, I can't move my mouse to point to it, but basically down there, you can see it's $T = 1410. So it'll jump to, use the video chapters to jump straight to the part of the video if it's within one where we do that thing. So that's that. So this week, we're going to do the setup and deploy the SANDBOX component. Okay, so if you remember, if you followed all the previous ones, we've got a trial account. We can all do this in our own thing. I've just noticed, by the way, I've only got 1 day left, so hooray. So I'm going to refresh to preempt any sort of, oh, you've been logged out thing. Most importantly, I've got my Hands on SAP Dev named SAP Cloud Business Application Dev Space already running from last time on the on last Friday's live stream. So let's jump into that now. And let's get started. So if you've not seen previous episodes, or you've not had a chance to jump through all these different things here, there's a section in this repo that tells you how to get set up for doing all of this stuff in the App Studio, including command line tools, and also while App Studio directly doesn't allow us to, doesn't have any facilities for building Docker images, you can do that, and we'll see either that today or next Friday's episode. So we're going to take our time. So actually, let me know in the chat Well, actually, first of all, talking of chat, Pankaj, are you around? Pankaj Kumar, are you around? You asked a question on Twitter about about Cloud Foundry versus Kubernetes, which one type thing. So if you're in the session right now, give us a shout on the chat and we'll chat about it. And also, anybody in the chat, let me know if you would prefer me to rush through this particular section or take our time, okay, and just enjoy all the morsels of goodness that we're going to go through. I know what I would prefer, but let me know in the chat. So yeah, let me know. So let's jump straight in. Set up and deploy the sandbox component. Now, just to figure out what this sandbox component is and what it does, let's remind ourselves of where it is on the whiteboard. So the sandbox component, as you can see, last week we set up the message bus. Okay, and before that, we set up our development environment and the App Studio and all that sort of stuff and our trial account. So really, this is the first actual, let's call it, component that we're going to be setting up together. Hey, Pankaj! Hi there, hi there, hi there. So you asked a question, right, about Cloud Foundry versus Kubernetes, when to use what. And I think basically the high-level answer is it depends, of course, and you knew I was going to say that. But I wanted to also get other people's opinion here. What, let us all know in the chat what you think about when to use Cloud Foundry, when to use Kubernetes. There isn't a golden rule, but the thing that I always keep in mind is that ultimately they achieve the same thing. It's all about cloud native, deploying, running, and managing cloud native apps. Okay, but I read somewhere, and it's quite a nice way of thinking about it. I think that basically Cloud Foundry is at a higher level of abstraction than Kubernetes. In other words, there are more building blocks, and the building blocks are smaller, and you have to piece more things together with Kubernetes, which gives you more control than in Cloud Foundry. So it's almost like the unit of measure in Cloud Foundry, the unit of work in Cloud Foundry is an application, which is why Cloud Foundry is so popular with developers, because developers think in terms of applications. Whereas the unit of currency, maybe I think is a better phrase, is the unit of currency in Cloud Foundry is an application, and the unit of currency in Kubernetes is arguably not an application, it's arguably a container. Okay, so you can see we've already descended in that line of thinking from Cloud Foundry to Kubernetes, and of course this applies to Kyma as well, Kyma being a Kubernetes thing. We've already descended a level, gives us more control, but also requires us to do more thinking and to do more DevOps style work. Gives us more power, gives us more flexibility, but at the cost of being arguably more complex, but more accomplished. So I'm not an expert in either, as you know. I have no idea what I'm doing with anything, but those are my thoughts. I hope that helps, Pankaj. Phil, would be great to have a session on when you should use each runtime on Cloud Foundry use cases. That's a good idea, actually, Phil. That's a good idea. Okay, I'll put it to my colleagues as well, because it's not just me that can share all this stuff. What about Gardener? Now there's a good question, Johan. Maybe I'll be able to persuade my friend and colleague, the wonderful Josh Bentley, to come on and talk about Gardener. If you would like that on a Hands-on SAP Dev episode, obviously not related to this particular series, but on another thing, let's do that. Okay, so thanks, Helmut. Thank you. Okay, so let's get going with this. So the sandbox, and by the way, all the work that you see in the repository here was put together by all of the advocates. So, this is not just me showing what I've done. All the stuff, all the code, all the configuration is from all of us. So for this particular thing, this idea of the sandbox, using approuter to front end the S4HANA Cloud mocked APIs on the API Business Hub, that was from Marius, for example. They're all superheroes, and I'm just here sort of talking. So the SANDBOX is the little front-end reverse proxy app based upon the approuter package, NPM approuter package from SAP, that front-ends the mock services that we've already seen on the API Business Hub. Wonderful mock services that we can, API Sales Order Service and the Business Partner Service, and that will inject, if you remember the Keynote video, that will inject the API key that you need for every single call to the API. Okay, so if you haven't watched the video already, of course you can get that in the link on the main README of this repo. So there we go. So that's what this is. Okay, now this is quite a long, well, it was even longer, but I've split it off. This is quite a long README. Okay, and it's deliberately so. By the way, I'm not sure whether the yeses were for shall we go slow and sure and steady and make sure we understand everything together, or shall I try and get through all of this? So let me know. Be explicit here on the chat and let me know. I'm going to default to going through slowly but surely to make sure we all understand everything. And in that context, okay, let's just have a look at the sort of the table of contents here. And the reason I want to have a look at the table of contents is because the SANDBOX component itself, the approuter based script, the NPM script, is quite simple. So why don't we complicate it, as it were, by just meditating on the different runtimes we could use. Okay, so we can see here that to run this approuter, we can run it locally on my machine here, or actually on the dev space, the virtual machine that is available to us, or the container that's available to us in the App Studio, right? That's what we'll do one. The sure way. Johan, thank you very much. There's a vote for the sure way. We can also run it on cloud, on the Business Technology Platform. Oh, I almost said the wrong word there. On the Cloud Foundry runtime. Okay, so we'll get it running on Cloud Foundry, but we'll also get it running on Kyma. Okay, and hopefully this will allow us to think about what we discussed, 10 minutes ago, as well, to see the sorts of realities that the theory of the the granularity, what that actually means in real life. So while in the developer keynote itself, in our presentation, this was running, the SANDBOX component was running on Kyma, okay, on Kubernetes. But we don't just want to run it there, we can run it on Cloud Foundry, and we'll run it locally, okay, just to get a feel. And of course, the contents of this README, of course, you can follow along. Helmut, I know Helmut is, for example, been following along on his own machine, not using App Studio. That's perfectly fine as well. But all the contents here assume that we're using the App Studio, as in the App Studio here, to do that. Okay, so let's get started. There's some sort of preambles here. In fact, note that, let's go into the App Studio. Is that big enough, by the way? I think it is. I've made the fonts quite a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. So I've cloned already from last time the whole thing here. And the SANDBOX component is in the S4HANA SANDBOX directory. Okay. The directory names are a little bit weird, but the SANDBOX one, that's where it is. It's linked from the repo. So let's have a look what's in the SANDBOX. We've got the images is just basically the images for the README, right? We've got the router itself, as in the router app, which is a normal NPM node app, which we'll look at, and then we'll run that directly in a minute. Okay. We've got a deployment.yaml file, which is for when we deploy it to Kubernetes, to Kyma. And we've got a Docker file as well. Okay, so we'll come to those things bit by bit. We've also got an MTA YAML in case we want to do a CF deploy rather than CF push to Cloud Foundry. So there's all sorts of different things in here. So there's a lot of stuff in here, but that lot of stuff covers lots of different execution and deployment contexts. Okay. I can hear something. What's going on? Oh, it's Michelle, just in the other room. Okay, so Let's go back to the README. Okay. Oh yes, that's right. One of the reasons why I wanted to look at this is because we've got a couple of sort of single letter named things here. We've got D and we've got K, and these are things that I wrote when I was writing this, the READMEs and everything, and trying to explain things. I found it easier to run these Docker related commands and Kubernetes and Kyma related commands as scripts because scripts. So that's what these scripts are. We'll come to using these scripts shortly, but that's what they are. Okay, so so once we're actually in our app space, this is what you want to do. If you want to play along as well, this is what we need to do. We need to move into this directory. Okay, we need to move into the SANDBOX directory in a shell. So I'm going to open up a shell. There we go. And I'm going to do cd s4 HANA SANDBOX. Okay, so we're now there. In fact, what we could do, let's open up another one, right? What we could do is say S4 HANA SANDBOX, right click on there, open in terminal, whammo, straight to SANDBOX, which is quite cool. Let's get rid of that and that. Let's just not confuse ourselves with anything at the moment. Let's just go straight up there. Okay, and move that across as well. Perfect. Okay, so in the SANDBOX, in fact, what I'll do is I'll do that as a separate thing so I can sort of split between them. There we go. Right, perfect. Okay, so if you remember in the video, in order to access the APIs, we need an API key. Okay, so this is all about grabbing the API key, this section here, the configuration section, and inserting it, injecting it into a couple of files. A couple of files because we're doing a couple of, or three actually, different ways of running it. Okay, so when we're talking about Kyma, Kubernetes, we need to make sure the API key is in this deployment.yaml file. Let me open it up there. That's what the deployment.yaml file, there it is, S4 HANA SANDBOX, deployment.yaml. That's what the deployment.yaml file looks like. And we'll come to, examining this in a little bit more detail when we come to the Kyma part. Okay, but you can see here, got this little placeholder, API key, your API key. This coffee's making me burp, what's going on? But also for local execution and also execution in Cloud Foundry, deployment.yaml is not relevant. What is relevant though is this default env.json file, which is effectively, a way to deliver, a way to provide values for environment variables to the app, whether that's local or whether that's in Cloud Foundry itself. Okay, environment variables are super fundamental and super important to lots of different things. They're so old. The technology, the concept of environment variables are so beautifully old, and I just love the way that they're still fundamental to really modern things, just like the terminal. So we also need to replace your API key in the default env.json file in router when we want to run it locally and in Cloud Foundry. Okay, so let's do that. In fact, let's have a look at that. There, that's where we need to replace the API key, our real API key, with that little placeholder there. Notice that in the default env in the Cloud Foundry context, this is JSON. In the Kyma, Kubernetes context, it's YAML. Okay, that's just configuration. And that also, by the way, notice as well, rather than use the destination service, instead, we've got, the destination service on the SAP Business Technology platform, that provides us with a way of maintaining configuration that describes a destination with all sorts of different things. But to be honest here, this destination, all we want is the URL. Where is it? There. Okay, sandbox.api.sap.com. So, let's enjoy a different way of defining destinations and making a destination definition available, which is through the destinations, lowercase note, which is quite unusual for an environment variable, lowercase destinations, plural, and it's an array. Okay, so we need to replace this string in each of these files. Now, I am in my editor here. In fact, there's the file. Where's the file? There it is, default env. Let's just do one at a time, okay? So we're not confusing ourselves. Why are we changing lots of different, configuration in lots of different places? Let's go for the local and the Cloud Foundry first of all. So there's our default env. In order to replace the value, I need to get the value, okay? By the way, if you're going to do this with other folks present, such as on a live stream, you can avoid showing the API key while editing by using the power of the shell. So we're going to do this, okay? I added this on the other day, but I thought it was quite useful. Let me know if you can figure out what that line, and specifically this bit, is doing. Okay, and we'll do that together. Let's enjoy it. And also, there's a warning here, of course, right? You don't need to commit your API key, your actual API key, to your repository. You don't need to push it to GitHub or anything, so don't as well, because of course then you'll be sharing. There's different ways of doing that. If you do want it in your GitHub repository, you can create a secret, but there we go. So let me grab my API key, okay? And my API key, as you remember from previous episodes of this particular series and also the thing here, if I log on to the API Business Hub, I'm saying it the right way around this time, not the Business API, but the API Business Hub. If I go to Preferences, it's going to show me my API key, which I can copy into my buffer. So I'm going to go there now, but I'm going to go on, and this time, last Friday, I had this super secret scene in OBS, but I forgot the microphone. So hopefully the microphone's there now. So I'm going to go to my secret scene and grab the API key. There we go. I can go back again. Hopefully I'm back. I'm going to just check it on the replay here. There we go. How many seconds delay is there? But anyway, let me know if what you saw there. Oh, there we go. Just a second, typing in something secret. ... Let me know if you heard me speaking on that secret thing. So I've got my API key from this little pop-up here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and instead of sort of replacing that and pasting it in, I've got it in my buffer, and I'm going to do this, right? Let's just do it together. So I'm going to use the sed command, which is a stream editor, and I'm going to use the I option to say just change the files in place, just whammo, overwrite, update them rather than spit the modified stuff to standard out there. I'm going to change your API key to the result of running this command. Okay. You saw my secret. Are you sure? Oh, you saw my secret scene. Thank you, Johan. Yes, you heard me and saw the secret screen. Amazing success. I can take the rest of the day off. Fantastic. Would be good to see Blue. Oh yes, it would be good to see Bluebeard on here. Yes, let's get Bluebeard on the Hands on SAP Dev show. Right, Phil, remind me. In fact, I've got a meeting with Josh this afternoon, so I'll put it to him then. I'm sure I'd love the chance. So this uses the read command, which takes input, okay? And the -p says, this is the prompt, API key. And the -s means this is a secret input. That's I don't know what S stands for, but S means secret to me. And it doesn't show you typing in. So let's do that together, okay? If I go to my thing here, and in fact, let's show also the deployment.yaml, and let's have that sort of here. There's the line in deployment.yaml. There's the line in default env. If I say sed -i, let's get rid of the Explorer. There we go. Sed -i, substitute your API key with the result of calling a subshell, doing this read with the prompt. There's a goose. I can hear the goose. With the prompt API key, please. Secret, and then that's always going to, well, not always, but that if that runs, that'll limit a truthy value. So we'll say and then echo, and then the value that we type in to read is by default put in the reply variable. Okay, the output of that then gets substituted against the API key. There we go, and then we'll say what is it? Deployment.yaml and router default env.json. Okay, I'm not going to paste in my API key. Hey Greg, good morning. And Max, good morning. Good afternoon. Max, are you trying to confuse me? Is it a minus or a dash? Ooh, good question. I always say dash. I mean, dash S, minus S, dash S. Yeah, dash S, I think. Yeah, let's go with that. Now, if I say banana, There we go. So we've managed to change both the value for API key in the default env and the deployment.yaml to banana. Okay, obviously I'm going to undo those because we don't want that value. There we go. So now I can do the same thing, but I'm going to paste in, removing the display first of all. There we go. So we've got those changed. So we've now got our API key. Okay, I said I was going to do it only in one file. I've done it in both files. Doesn't really matter. So now we've got the API key in the configuration that will be made available to the app when we run it in configuration files, whether that's CF or Kyma. Okay, Tanmoy, thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. I love people who ask questions for more explanation. So what we did there, this here, I don't know whether in the olden days, as it were, you put something in backticks, okay, and that is basically a subshell, which means it calls another shell and runs something, and the output of whatever's run is returned as the value, okay? So this is almost like saying, run this thing here, okay? Execute read, and then, you know, execute echo reply as well. So in fact, if I say read p gimme Tanmoy, and then do that, and well, I'm not going to do -s because we can see what we're typing in then. Gimme Tanmoy, hello there. Echo reply, oops, is hello there, okay? You can specify it with another switch with another option to read what the name of the variable you want is instead if you don't want it to be reply. There we go. So all I was doing there was doing that and then saying and ampersand ampersand, as in if that completes successfully, then also echo the input was $reply. This is the input. The input was, this is the input. Does that help, Tanmoy? And so the subshell is basically, if I say here echo, this is what we get, colon, dollar open brackets, and if we say, I don't know, well, let's do one now. Read, let's not have a prompt even. Read, that'll do. Dollar read, and echo dollar reply. We can say banana. This is what we get, banana. So the result of executing that through this subshell expression is then substituted into the thing. Hopefully that helps. Bluebeard for the win, exactly. Pankaj, thank you very much. Tanmoy, let me know if that helps, okay? And I was hoping somebody would pick up on this because, you know, for us as developers and architects and DevOps people, embracing and knowing how to do stuff and be a power user in the most natural environment, I think is a really important thing in the SAP tech world. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you don't agree. You know, Asaf in the house. Fantastic. Asaf is one of my superheroes. Thank you for the confirmation, and thank you for joining as well, Asaf. Brilliant. Okay, so where were we? So Tanmoy, okay, brilliant. Okay, that's good. So now, and again, one of the things Asaf reminds me, Asaf, I was having a conversation with Asaf the other day, and it reminds me, one of the things I love about the App Studio is that it gives us a proper environment in which we can work and do really cool things we don't need anywhere else, right? Look at it. Okay. Anyway, DJ, calm down. So we got our API key now in the default env. Okay, so running the app. Let's finally get to running the app. It's 8:34 already. We'll get to run the app locally, and we'll get to run the app in Cloud Foundry, and we'll then leave the juicy Kyma Kubernetes stuff with Docker, and we'll be using GitHub Actions in our repos, in our forked repos, to build the Docker image next time. Another time. Right. So as mentioned earlier, you can run this app in a number of different contexts. We'll start with running locally, and then we'll deploy it to Cloud Foundry. And we'll deploy it in two ways as well. How many different bifurcations can we have on this episode? So let's go back to our session here, and you can see in the router directory, we've got lots of files. Docker ignore, we'll come on to that shortly. Okay, we'll come on to that when we start building the Docker container. Sorry, the Docker image. Prettier ignore, prettier run. I've started to embrace prettier, which is a mechanism to enforce. Enforce, is that the right word? Gently enforce style. Okay, and I had a brilliant conversation with my wonderful friend and colleague Max about whether to use semicolons or not when we were building the brain together, which is another component, and single quotes, of course. Single quotes much better than double quotes in JavaScript. Anyway, and we got the default. Oh, I almost showed it. There we go. I'm going to destroy this API key anyway after the show. And we've got index.js, which is the actual script itself, which uses approuter. Okay, and all it does, okay, you can run approuter without any script at all, without any JavaScript. You can run approuter just by running it as a script, approuter.js, because everything is controlled in this xsapp.json file. Okay. So there's the xsapp.json file, and that's it. That's all that's in there, right? What that is saying, okay, we're going to define a route. Okay, approuter is super powerful. In fact, there's a news item on the SAP Developer News last week on approuter. There's now a user API in approuter, which is pretty cool. But the approuter, I know we've all sort of probably heard of, if not used the approuter in many things. It sits in front of your stuff and does lots of things for you, include all the gnarly bits relating to authentication and everything, which is really cool. It's all just pixels on a screen. Plus for semicolons. Max. Who else is in favour of, who likes semicolons and who doesn't like semicolons in Java? I know Volker Buzek, for example, who was on Twitter yesterday in conversation. No semicolons. No semicolons. That's why I don't. Great. Okay, so Greg is saying, great explanation of terminal commands, but still a bit ironic to run them in a browser. Yes, you're right, but I get my terminals wherever I can, okay? And the wonderful thing about these sorts of development environments is that, yeah, it just gives us what we need, which is a terminal. And, a nice editor and all sorts of plugins and features and extensions and things like that as well, of course. But, I'm a terminal person. You get the best of two worlds. You get the best of both worlds. So I can go to my sister's down the road and use my nephew's laptop and do exactly the same thing as I'm doing here without bringing any of my stuff. Anyway. So this is the thing here, and all we're doing is we're saying, well, we don't want to have any authentication or anything like that. Basically, whatever comes in, send it on its way to a destination that's defined by this definition name, API Hub Sandbox. And remember, I'm not going to show you in this file, I'm going to show you here instead. Remember, in router, let's open that router in a separate window. Remember that, there it is, API, let's make that one bigger. API Hub Sandbox is the name of the destination, just like having a destination, in the cockpit, is the name of a destination, points to that URL. There's no other properties or anything else. That's all you need. It's the minimum viable product, the simplest thing that would possibly work, as Ward Cunningham would say. And all we do is to say, well, take whatever the path is, and then instead, reverse proxy that call to the destination, which is HTTPS sandbox api.sb.com but then also don't just stick it on the end, put S4HANA Cloud in front, because that's what the API path actually is, okay, on the API Business Hub, okay? So all we're doing is we're translating an incoming request to /SAP/OPU/OData/SAP/API sales order serve /whatever sales orders. And we're translating that into a full URL, which goes to the SANDBOX, but also has this S4HANA Cloud in it. Okay. So that's what that does. And by default, the welcome file is, oh yeah, if you don't get anything specified on the path, go there. Okay. Well, there it is. I was trying to remember that from memory, but there it is right in front of me. Okay. So let's go back here. Where were we? Oh, we're here. Yes, of course. So that's that. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm explaining things, aren't I? Yes. And there's it. So all we do here, the reason we've got a script is because we need to do something just before we turn around and reverse proxy that call to the actual API hub. Okay. And what have we got to do? We've got to inject the API key into the header. Okay. You remember the video? You tried to call, in fact, let's do it. Let's do it. Where are we? There we go. Let's open that, right? Go there and then say, go here and let's just glue everything together, right? Where's the xsapp.json? We'll have that. And let's remember to put S4HANA Cloud in front of it, right? Go here again, go here, bang. Oh, S4HANA Cloud, S4HANA Cloud. Now, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Anybody? 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 I hope we're going to get an error. Yes. This is the thing that we are dealing with the approuter and with specifically this thing. Okay. So all we're doing is we're in every request before the request is completely processed, right? Run this little function. Okay. And that little function gets given the request object. It also gets given a response object if we want to sort of, change the response, but we don't really want to change the response. And we also get given the next handler in the sequence. The approuter works a little bit like the HTTPD from Apache, the original and best, web server software, which had a stacked handler style thing, pass through these different things. That's how CAP works as well, for example, right? All we're doing is we're using the request API, API, request object, going to the headers and adding a header called API key, because that's what it's asking for. Failed to resolve API key. I want a header with the called API key with an API key, please. Otherwise, you're going to get that. That's what it's saying. And all we do is we say, well, the value of this API key header should be the value of the API key environment variable, which we've set in default m.json from our environment, from the process, which is related to this running node thing. Okay, and that's what this router does. Does that make sense? So let's run it. npm start. In fact, it tells us here, doesn't it? Let's get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Let's use my table of contents. Locally, bang. npm install. Yeah, let's not do the npm install and see what happens. We learn from errors, right? npm start, bang. Well, first of all, I'm not in the right directory. cd router. There we go. It does. I think I have to say go into router. cd router. Yeah, cd router. npm install. npm install. Let's make that a little bit bigger, taller rather. Clear screen. Bang. Oh, I meant to do npm start, not npm install. Oh well, we're installing things then. Fine. Okay, and now we can do npm run. So don't forget, this is running locally, where locally means sort of locally in my dev space on App Studio, which is cool. I mean, how cool is that? npm start, sorry. Getting too excited. npm start. There we go. Let's get rid of the Explorer view. There, so we're running. Okay, we've got all sorts of crazy approuter output. Crazy, exciting crazy, right? So we've got this lovely little thing here, because don't forget, this is a virtual environment. This is like a container thing, right? Which is wonderful, but where is it? How can we access ports HTTP ports that this container is exposing. The App Studio does that for us. Ta-da! A service is listening on port 5000, which is the default port for approuter, right? Open a new tab. So you can see that all the hard plumbing gubbins is done for us by the App Studio in the background. And we get straight to that port 5000 service that's mapped. Sorry, this URL is mapped to port 5000 localhost. Okay. And there we go. And because we've got that welcome file definition in there, it will go automatically, not there, where? To where we said, which is there, which is, what is this? This is the service document for the API Sales Order Serve API, or to you and me, OData service. Okay. Oh, lots of chat, brilliant chat. Sorry. Nobody see Helmut. I like you even more. Nobody needs semicolons. Exactly. Yes, the best of two worlds, like an affair. Not sure what to make of that. Sounds quite good though. So worlds of Windows into the clouds. Yes, exactly, Greg. So the approuter we're using. That's a good question. Approuter equals proxy or load balancer. This is most definitely acting as a proxy, a reverse proxy, technically speaking, but yes, a proxy. So the approuter is invoked first before the actual API call to grab the API keys to authenticate. So, okay, so let's just pull that sentence out a bit, just to make sure we know what this is. So it's a great question, Tanmoy. So what is happening is that if I press refresh, right, I'm making a call. My browser is making a call, a GET request, to this thing here, which the App Studio is wonderfully mapping to localhost 5000. In fact, if I do that, I've got too many things open. Do we want? Oh, okay, yeah, well, I've got there. Right, there we go. Right, I'm going to make let's just put some empty lines there so we can see what's going on. Right, and then I'll hit refresh. Right, refresh. What's happened is that my browser on my MacBook here in Manchester has gone to App Studio land, to that URL. App Studio has translated that URL, has mapped the request to localhost, where localhost relates to the local container in my dev space, port 5000. Remember that little message, port 5000. And that's where the call has gone, right? That's where the call to that path info, if you're old-fashioned like me, where that path info has gone. So approuter goes, okay, cool. Let me handle this, right? And what it does, how do I get hold of that thing? Come on, there we go. What it does, it says, let me look at my routes. Let me see what I need to do with this request. And it says, oh, look, basically it's this source matches this request. Basically, this is a regular expression that says anything and everything. This anchors the regular expression. This anchors the pattern to the start of the line, right? Slash. This anchors the pattern to the end of the line. Dollar is end of line in a regular expression. So basically this and dot means something, a character. An asterisk means one or more. Zero or more. So basically whatever you put in is going to be matched by that source. And because we've got brackets in there, that's a capture group. And the capture groups basically, so you can grab whatever is, matched by the pattern inside the capture group. So basically it's all the stuff, all the path. And, in sequence, the capture groups are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and referenced with $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. So basically, whatever is in between, whatever is in the path, right? Which is that gets captured. That gets matched first of all by this regular expression and captured into $1. And approuter says, okay, great, I've got a match. I've got a route match. Now what do I need to do with it? And it goes, oh, I've got to make a call to, I've got to send it along to an endpoint which is defined by this destination definition. What destination definition? Oh, I've got a destination definition. It's in my environment variable called destinations, which we've seen already from our default m.json, right? Which is there, right? There's our destination definition. So it knows, okay, I need to make the call, reverse proxy, go make the call to the destination where the domain name is that, and that's the scheme, HTTPS. A lot of people call this part of a URL the protocol. Well, technically, you can understand why people say that. It's not. It's called the scheme. Okay. That then becomes the start of the URL for the actual sort of reverse proxy call, the call that the approuter is making on our behalf. I'm always saying behind me. Reverse proxy is like, back there, right? And what it does is it sort of sticks on S4HANA Cloud onto the end of that, and then whatever was in $1, which is SAP OPUO data, SAP API sales order serve thing. And that's what it makes that call, and then whatever it gets back from that call, it returns in the in its response, reverse proxy. So Tanmoy, does that explain? Does that explain what's going on? Let me know if that is clear. Hopefully it is. Pankaj, on Cloud Foundry, where could we find the port number? Well, in fact, let's answer that by deploying it to Cloud Foundry. But the answer is maybe not what you expect. The answer, when we deploy it to Cloud Foundry, it's going to, or by default, deploy to the default ports for the two schemes, well, for the one scheme, HTTPS. Okay. Can anybody shout out what the, oh, okay, good, thanks for the confirmation. What is the default port for HTTPS? Anybody? Can anybody say, what's the default port for HTTP? The default port for HTTP is 80, right? So if you go to qmacro.org, or let's do that, HTTP, I'm not even sure. No, I know a website that's still doing HTTP. That's scripting.com. HTTP scripting.com. Okay, a venerable script blog from Dave Weiner. If you go there, right, you get stuff. Now that is exactly the same. What your browser is doing is saying, well, you didn't specify a port, so I'm going to default it to the default port for the scheme that you specified, which was HTTP, which is 80. So it's the same as saying HTTP scripting.com:80. Same thing, right? And look, the browser sort of takes it away. Now, if we went to HTTPS, qmacro.org, what port is being used there? Greg, 443, excellent. Right? The port that's being used there for HTTPS is port 443, as Greg says. So this is exactly the same as saying 443. Okay. If you're running your services on non-default ports, that's the only time you need to specify the port number if you want to get there. So :5000, for example, or :8000, as Pankaj says as an example, right? You will see also in many ABAP stack SAP systems, port numbers like 44300. Anybody seen that? 44301, 44302, 8000, 8001. Now, in many cases, this is a bit of a digression, but let me know if you want me to stop digressing. But in many cases, the reason why you see things like port 8000 or 8001 or 8080 or 8008 or whatever, 4004 for CAP, right? Well, the reason you see 8000 is because it's sort of 80 like, and 80 is HTTP. But why is it 8,000? Why is it such a high number? Because in order to bind to and listen on port numbers below 1024, you need to have root access. And me as a normal person, and I am a normal person, I don't have root access. Okay? That's why, for example, the approuter is listening on 5,000, not, for example, 50. Because we couldn't run it and get it to listen on port 50. Because we're not allowed, right? Those are privileged ports. That's why lots of port numbers like Pancard says 8,000, they're very high. Because you can bind to them and start accepting requests on them if you're not root. Which in this case, of course, in my dev space, I'm not root. And yes, so Andrew says multiple applications on the same host. Exactly. So ports, you can connect to a host, but when you connect to a host, you're not really connecting to just a host. You're connecting to a combination of host and port. Does anybody know what the technical term for the combination of a host and a port is? It's a socket. Okay, you connect to a socket. So you connect to host qmacro.org on port 443. You're connecting to a socket. Okay, and over that socket, through that socket connection, you're speaking HTTPS. Anyway, I've just noticed it's 8:56. Is it worth doing a quick deploy to Cloud Foundry to sort of see what happens? Or shall we stop here? Let me know. Shall we do a quick deploy to Cloud Foundry? That's that. We're running this locally there. So let's stop. Control C. Okay. Root equals root, but sounds very similar. Sounds exactly the same. Ah, yes, because, yeah. I think in the US, people pronounce that second word route, right? But route is when you go, you're a barbarian with sword and shield, and you go to a city and you rout the enemy. This is route, right? I can say that because I'm from Manchester. Anyway, what are we going to do? Oh yes, so we finished this bit. Okay, so we've successfully, where are we? We've successfully run it locally. Okay, node index.js. There we go. Okay, so now why don't we run it instead on Cloud Foundry? We'll just do one thing, right? We'll just deploy it, and then is that a bus route or a bus route? Let's not get into that. So as it says here as well, because to run this locally, I've descended into the router directory, but we want to go back up one, right? So CD there. Okay, so I'm back in the sandbox. So remember, if you're doing this, back in the sandbox. Andrew, that's very good, but no time for no more time for wordplay because I've talked enough. So let's log in. CF login. I'm using this one. I could have used my secret thing, but anyway. There we go. Right, so we've authenticated. Let's just remind ourselves what apps we've got. We've got one app, that webhook from last week. Okay, that's all we've got. And we've got, of course, what services have we got? We've got our enterprise messaging service from the previous week. Now what we want to do is push it to Cloud Foundry. We can do this. Well, let's first of all, this last thing, let's do the simplest thing that could possibly work. Right? Which is this thing here, CF push. Let's have a random route. Let's give it half a gig of disk, and let's give it a quarter of a gig of main memory, RAM. People still say RAM. And let's call it proxy app. And where it is, the path to where the app is that we want to push to Cloud Foundry. Here's an example of the currency. The unit of currency for Cloud Foundry is the app. Where is the app? It's in this directory here, path, in this path. Let's just copy paste that. Let's see what happens. Proxy app Bright Rowan XY. So we're now pushing exactly the same. We haven't changed anything. We haven't changed anything. And we're telling the CF command line to create a random route, which is done, right? And to push that app that's in the router directory, the one with the index.js and the xsapp.json and all the other stuff, right? And the default m.json, very important. Push it to Cloud Foundry. Push it to my dev space, in my org, in my trial account. So, and waiting for app to start, it started. So now if we go to there and notice the route to it, going back to Pankaj's question, there's no port. Okay, let's have a look what that is. Just paste that straight in. There we go. First of all, note that we get that little padlock, which basically means this is HTTPS. Okay, by default it's HTTPS on Cloud Foundry. Why wouldn't it be? And also, it's the default port. So to answer your question, to answer your question, Pankaj, the port in Cloud Foundry is 443. Unless we specify something else, right? But why would we want to specify anything else? And because of the welcome file in the xsapp.json, it's automatically gone to the SAP OPU OData SAP API Sales Order Serve, and exactly the same things happened. So let's dig into that a little bit more. We'll also next time, while digging into it, we'll also deploy it to Cloud Foundry using a multi-target application definition as well, because why not? And then we'll do the Kyma Kubernetes thing. So that's it. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for joining and having brilliant chats. Having brilliant chats, what does that even mean? For interacting. That really makes it special for, well, not just me, but for everybody else as well. So yes, padlocks are a separate discussion. I agree. Thank you very much for joining. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. Press end.